My name's Kain. I'm the head of watches at Fellows Auctioneers. On the 5th of October, we've got the Peter Hayman's retirement collection, 231 lots. 209 of which are luxury watches, many of which have been serviced recently, some in 2022, some in 2023. Peter Hayman has been working online with luxury watches, selling them for over 20 years. He takes pride in the condition of the watches that he sells, and that's why most of the ones in the sale have actually been serviced. Two lots in this sale in particular, lot 49, the Omega Railmaster, featuring a blue jeans dial. It's a brushed effect, making it look basically like a denim kind of effect on that. The other lot is lot 47, the Michael Schumacher Speedmaster, featuring the bright yellow dial with checkered outer track, tachymeter bezel and subsidiary dials at 3, 6 and 9. Two great examples of Omega watches, the brand which Peter Hayman was most keen about. The Michael Schumacher reference 3511-1200, released in 1996 at Schumacher's go-kart track in Kirchen, Germany. It's featured on a stainless steel bracelet, but also was released on a yellow strap, and there was also a red dial example which had the red strap. Both great examples. We take a lot of pride being able to auction Peter Hayman's collection. So Peter Hayman ran Parker's Jewellers in Sheffield. He was one of the first retailers to offer luxury brands online. He dealt with luxury retailers such as Harrods, Harvey Nichols and Selfridges. He had over 40,000 patrons, of which were keen collectors of Omegas, Cartiers and other luxury brands. This sale here is part 1 and part 2 is to be continued, and this will contain parts such as Rolex bracelets, Breitling bracelets, links, spare cases, watch glasses and watch boxes. We really look forward to putting that sale together, and we look forward to achieving some great prices.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this special podcast from Fellows the Auctioneers. I'm Michael Hayman, and during my career as an interviewer, I've interviewed business leaders, people in public life, sports stars, people in entertainment. But you know what? I've never interviewed my dad, and it's an absolute pleasure, therefore, to focus this interview on the story of Peter Hayman and Parker's Jewellers, because it's going to be his work that is being auctioned by Fellows in the coming days. And so it's a real pleasure for me to be able to turn the tables on my father for this one-off opportunity and go full Jeremy Paxman on him to sort of like bring to his story to life. In terms of your own passion for watches, what's inspired you about them? What are the brands you like?
Omega is my favorite brand, and Vacheron Constantine, which is a little known brand over here, but very, very classy. But I like him. Yeah, the other thing about buying a watch is you've got to put it on your wrist. This is if you're buying it to wear it. You put it on your wrist and think, "Oh, I'm glad I bought this." That's that, because you're going to look at it dozens of times a day.
Yeah, and of course, it's a sort of it's the look, it's the feel. I mean, in terms of the sort of the I mean, you like watches from different eras, don't you? I mean, what's your favorite era for a watch?
60s or before.
Why is that?
I just like the style of them, but the modern big automatics, they don't suit my wrist in any case.
But they're lovely watches as well, though, aren't they? In their own way. I mean, they're real triumphs. Now, I wouldn't even hazard to guess how many watches you've sold during your career, but maybe there is one which is the most memorable. What's the one that you'd share as being the one that might not be on this auction, but maybe on the next? What's the biggest one you've sold?
Well, as far as price is concerned, the most expensive watch I've ever sold is a Platinum Daytona, which went for 150,000.
So that's a Rolex.
That's a Rolex.
And explain the Daytona. What is it aesthetically?
Well, they were originally made famous by Paul Newman.
The actor.
I've forgotten the one that got sold a couple of years ago, but for untold millions. Yeah, one of the reasons would have been because he'd worn it, but it was an unusual watch in any case.
And it's funny because when I think about, you know, watches, having looked at the catalogue, is that, you know, you see watches that are attracted or attached rather to names like Paul Newman or the James Bond franchise. I mean, there is something about adventure with wristwatches as well, isn't there, in terms of what it does for the human heart?
Yes, but I don't go for the really collectible, or I didn't do anyway. For the really collectible watches, we went for the commercial watches where we were looking to sell to watch lovers, people who would like a nice watch to put on the wrist, but keep it within everybody's budget.
Yeah, I mean, there are some high budget items on this sale, but you are right. There is something for everyone. I mean, I suppose
there's something for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that brings in, you know, I suppose you talked there a little bit about the proposition, but the reputation for Parker's is that it's a business that looks after its customers. I mean, that is the USP. I mean, is there a secret in how you got that right?
Well, how did we get it right? Well, first of all, you've got to know what you're talking about when a customer asks you a question, but then you go right the way through after you've sold it to them. You know, you can't be like a car dealer. Well, once we've sold it, that's it. You know, when the customer comes back and said he's got a little problem with his watch, you've got a duty to put it right, that's what we've always done. And consequently, we've always received high ratings on Trustpilot and eBay and everything else.
Yeah. And presumably, you've got to like your customers as well. I mean, enjoy their stories, enjoy their ambitions with what they want to achieve with a purchase.
Yes, I've made a lot of friends out of clients. But as the net spread wider, you know, we kicked off with local people, but now we've sent watches all over the world.
Yeah, there you've got an international business. It's a phenomenal story. I mean, I'm sort of imagining that the team of fellows are probably sort of sat listening to this interview thinking, well, we've got a lot we want to say about cars, but we are, because of what you said, but we are talking about watches today. And of course, you've chosen fellows to sell your collection. What made you choose fellows?
Well, I've dealt with them for 25 years. I know Mr. Whitaker, who's the MD personally. Always found him very, very easy to deal with, but mainly we've bought off them. But now we've come to the end of the road as far as my career is concerned. I then need to use somebody I can trust to dispose of the watches.
Yeah,
and I think fellows are the one. They've got a good reputation.
Brilliant. Now, you've talked about the end of the road. I mean, I'm sure it isn't the end of the road, but merely a fork in the road. But the fork starts with the fact that Parker's Jewellers has got a new chapter in its story. It is a brand that goes back many, many years. I mean, tell us a little bit about what's next and what you've passed on.
Yes, well, I mean, it goes back to 1883 when it was founded. There was a Mr. Parker, and there were successive Mr. Parkers until about 75, I think. The last Parker disappeared, Mr. Parker, and then a friend of mine. But anyway, in the end, I bought the shop in 77, something like that. Anyway, now it's time for me to move on, and I've sold the brand and the name to David Myers in Hatton Garden, who I've known for 45 years, and who should carry on the traditions that we've already started. Well, and Mr. Parker too.
Yeah, I mean, and it is a great legacy. I mean, thinking about the businesses that, you know, not just the customers, but Harrods, Harvey Nichols, Hatton Garden. I mean, these are all the places where the Parker story has found great outcomes in terms of customers and watch sales. I mean, you're now, I mean, nobody can blame an 82-year-old for retiring, but I doubt that you are retiring? I mean, if this is the first half of your life, what's the next half look like?
Well, I'm going to keep my eye in. I've been engaged by Mr. Myers, who now owns Parker's, as a consultant. No payments come my way up to now, but I'm hoping for the best.
Well, but we're not using this podcast to sort of like, put him under pressure, are we? But it's
really, yeah.
But when you say keep your eye in, I mean, keep your eye in with watches, presumably.
Yes. No, look, I've always traded all my life. I don't want to bore your listeners how far back I'm going to go to, but I've been trading for a long time with various products. But then when I hit upon the objects that I like, i.e. watches, that's how I want to finish my days.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to finish this interview, because I think nobody can deny all of the successes you've had during your life, Dad, as an entrepreneur, but I think most notably as a really inspiring builder of a watch collection and a watch business. And of course, people listening to this podcast are going to have a great opportunity to buy many of those products over the coming days. So I'm sure they would want me to wish you well. And we're going to hand this podcast back to Fellows the Auctioneers. I'm Michael Hayman. You've been listening to Peter Hayman and the story of Parker's Jewelers. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.